Recording in progress.
Okay, welcome to tonight's Board of Zoning Appeals, May 17th, 2022. This meeting is being recorded as well as video for the record, so you'll hear us refer to the record throughout the night. I'd first like to start with our Pledge of Allegiance. If you please stand and join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As far as a roll call, please announce your name starting to my right.
David Jackson.
Barry Cohen.
Don Kurtz.
Todd Chernick.
Hodge Patel.
Adam Danella.
Make a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda as published.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving tonight's meeting agenda as published, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. That passed unanimous. Next item on our agenda is our April 19th, 2022 meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the April 19th, 2022 minutes as published.
I'll
Second.
second. 2 seconds. You go ahead.
Seconded by Don. Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor of approving the April 19th, 2022 meeting minutes as published, say aye.
Aye.
And I'll abstain as I was not in attendance last month. That motion passed. Before we move into consideration of primary variances, which is our sixth item on the agenda, I'd identify that the Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial board comprised of resident volunteers of the city of Milton. The board is charged with hearing requests for variances from the standards of the zoning ordinance and appeals of administrative determination. With regard to decisions on primary variances, the board's basis for decision is provided by these four considerations. A, relief if granted would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. And B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. And C, relief if granted would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good in surrounding properties. And D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and that substantial justice is done. With that, I'd introduce our first item for tonight, V22-03, 355 Cox Road.
Yes, that is administratively deferred.
Okay, for the public's benefit, could we explain what that means?
Yes, they are currently working on a site plan through the plat process, and so they've deferred, I believe, 3 times to get their survey in order.
Okay. So we don't need to take any action on that item?
That's correct. Your bylaws allow the community development director to defer that administratively without the board's vote in certain situations, which this qualifies as.
Okay. So then moving on to item B on our agenda, which is V22-08, 13424 Hipworth Road. And I see Michael's already prepared with the site plan. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome. Good evening. The address is 13424 Hipworth Road. The requested variance is to allow a pool and pool deck to encroach into the 75-foot impervious setback, section 20-4262. The site is a 1.09 acre parcel located in the Lake Haven subdivision. The property is zoned AG1 and is located in the rural Milton overlay district. The applicant is proposing to build a pool and pool decking that is encroaching the 25-foot setback where impervious surface is prohibited. which is in addition to the 25-foot state and 25-foot city undisturbed buffers. Therefore, a variance is requested. The property has a retention pond located in the rear of the property, as shown in the Lake Haven final plat. Also, there is a flowing stream into the retention pond along the western property line that also requires an undisturbed buffer, 25-foot state buffer, 25-foot city buffer, 25-foot setback. Per section 20-4262, an additional 25-foot setback shall be required where impervious surface is prohibited and grading or filling shall be minimized. The applicant has granted a deferral by the Board of Zoning Appeals on 4/19/22 to work with staff to reduce the total scope of the pool decking, and covered patio to minimize the encroachment. The applicant met with city staff on 5/4/22 to discuss the new proposed design. On 5/9/22, the applicant submitted a revised plan. The total encroachment into the 25-foot setback was reduced from 453 square feet to 271 square feet, a total reduction of 182 square feet. The pool was reduced from 1,058 square feet to 819 square feet, a total reduction of 239 square feet. The covered patio was reduced from 820 square feet to 504 square feet, a total reduction of 316 square feet. The overall lot coverage was reduced from 18.3% to 17.9%, which is below the 20% maximum allowed. The original site plan can be referenced in the packet, dated 2/24/22, Exhibit D. The site plan shows the lot is pie-shaped, which narrows towards the rear of the property. In addition, the site plan shows a covered patio adjacent to the pool, which was reduced. The lot has a steep drop in grade in the rear of the property with an overall 20-foot drop in grade. The septic field is located along the northern side setback. The applicant is proposing 6 dry wells for water quality and runoff reduction, detailed on the stormwater plan, Exhibit C. The total impervious from the lot coverage is 17.9%. The applicant has provided a letter of support from the adjacent neighbor to the north, Lot 13. The DRB met on April 12th and had the following comments. DRB recommends reduction of the scope of the pool decking, and covered patio to minimize the encroachment. DRB does not see a hardship in this case, however, it feels the city has been allowing similar encroachments in the past. Notwithstanding this case, DRB suggests that city staff needs to take a close look at stream buffer regulations that allow small encroachments into the 25-foot setback when impervious services are not permitted in the future. The applicant addressed DRB's comments, reduced the scope, and resubmitted. Recommendation from staff. Water quality treatment to be provided for all new impervious services as detailed on the stormwater plan, Exhibit C, or as determined by city development engineer through the permitting process. And secondly, a foundation survey during permitting process of the pool. Any questions for staff?
I'll just make a quick note for the board members. So the recommended condition is altered slightly regarding point 2, a foundation survey during permitting process of the new pool. Here in our record, it says single-family home. Okay. Are there any questions for staff?
Is that, that condition, is that, the way it's written, it says "or" as determined. So can the city overrule this? If we approve this as with that statement in there, are we approving this flow water plan and then the city can overrule it? Or the way it's written, I'm a little confused.
Yeah, we wanted to give some leeway to the development engineer, Jerry Oberholzer, who actually helped write the condition with us. So if he feels that there needs to be more flow wells or more water quality, he can add them. The question didn't come up about reducing it. We didn't think about that. What's your thought on that, Shuba?
Yeah, I mean, if the applicant proves that by calculation, they don't really need 6 and 5 are enough, and the engineer accepts their calculations, then I think reduction would be okay. That's what we meant here, actually.
Okay, I just wanted to, that's fine, but I just wanted to make clear that with that condition, we're saying this board is not approving this water plan absolutely, that it still could be modified by the engineer, plus, minus, whatever. That's what this means. Okay.
We're only approving the variance into the setback, correct? But we can add the conditions
Right.
for the water management. So we could,
You're both right.
yeah. So I mean, we could essentially say, you have to go by at minimum what is in this plan. The city engineer does not, have authority to go less than what we tell them if we wanted to do it that way.
Yeah, and it's my understanding, I think this is an improved condition recommendation from staff,
Right.
which allows more rigor from the city engineer to evaluate these programs and takes us out of the equation since we're not necessarily qualified. That was the intent, I believe, that of
Right.
staff
Yes.
generating this, correct?
Yes, yes.
Any other, so would you please bring up the site plan on the screen so we have that for the public to see? And from this site plan, Michael, can you identify the adjacent neighbor to the north that is in approval? Okay, so lot 13? And they would be the most closely impacted? All right.
Correct. And I believe they have HOA support as well, but I'll let the applicant speak to that.
Okay. And let's leave this up for the applicants to come forward because I have a question regarding the reserve septic system. They can point that out here as well. Any other questions? All right, I'd ask the applicant to come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Travis Doyle, 13424 Hipworth Road. Excuse me.
So Travis, I understand you were here last month.
Correct.
And have made quite a few changes based on I was not in that last month's meeting. What would you care to update this board regarding what's been changed and where we're at now?
Okay, so the original plan, and don't, give me 1 second, please. So a handful of things that Michael had just discussed. The pool was going in, obviously, into the 75-foot buffer and it was the board's recommendation that, we need a plan B here, that it's a little bit too far cutting into it. And it was the board's recommendation that we come back and rework the plan and shrink the size of it. So per the board's recommendation, we've gone back and, made the adjustments to the site and to the pool plan by reducing the overall footprint of the pool and of the structure.
Okay, by my calculations, it looks like you've reduced the overall impact of this project by over 700 square feet.
Correct.
Okay. As we have the site plan up on the screen, a topic I think was discussed, but again, I wasn't here, is the location of your reserve septic field. Do you can you identify where that is in the property? I see the existing is noted on the plan.
Yeah.
It's in the front yard? Okay. I only bring that up because it'll come up in the permitting process, and I just didn't want you to run into problems if you hadn't accounted for that. Has there been any discussion with the neighbor, your other adjacent neighbor, which looks to be lot 11?
So lot 11 has not, I've approached lot 11. So the way that the neighborhood works is once we have permission, either through the BZA or through the board, that we can proceed. And then we go through a process where I'll have to physically go to lot 13 and to lot 11. And then they will have to sign off on a form saying, yes, they agree to making these modifications. From there, we take their signatures and put that in front of the ARB. Then the ARB then will make the final call of whether we can move forward with the project.
ARB
Obviously,
being the
out to the
architectural review board for
Yes.
your community?
Correct.
Okay.
So.
And they've been notified of this project, and they may be here to speak in public comment.
Yes,
By the city is notified?
twice, yeah, because.
Okay. Okay. So as you have this drawing up available, Looked like the former pool was more kidney kind of
It was more of a
rounded.
free form, so we
Yes.
just cut it back into that, into more the square, and then again, reduce, yeah, there you go. Thank you, Mike.
And it had a,
Larger pool house.
yes, can you, Michael, can you help us with the 75-foot? See how that projects across the
So it
pool
would have been-
formerly?
Formally, you should have your 75 should be right here.
There you go.
And that would go across.
And then,
Right, almost directly between proposed pool.
okay, and currently with the revised plan?
5 foot.
Okay. And the dark box there is the flow well,
Correct.
and that would be the mitigation for any runoff from the pool and the additional impervious surfaces. Okay. And you've done a great job at walking through these plans. It sometimes can be very cumbersome, so.
I had a lot of help. I was coached up on that part. so
Okay.
thank you.
I didn't want to stress you out, which is why I asked Michael to help. You got enough on your plate. Any additional questions for the applicant? I will make another point that I think staff highlighted. Besides this being more of a pie-shaped lot, you also have pretty steep topography you're dealing with here.
Correct. It's about give or take, 18 to 22 feet that just straightens out, straight into the retention. So we just have a limited amount in the backyard, given the location of the septic fields.
Okay. If there's no further questions, then the way the meeting process moves is we'll move to public comment to see if anyone's here to speak in favor or in opposition. Then you'll have a chance to make a closing comment and we may have questions before we move to a motion. So you can take a quick seat if you want. Do we have any public comment here in favor or against?
No.
No public
No.
cards. Is there anyone in the audience that's here to speak in favor or against? Okay. So there is no public comment. You have an opportunity to make a closing remark before I close the public comment, and I'll move into a motion.
No real public remarks, just, again, appreciate the board working with us on this. And again, we're just trying to, bring that setback line. We're going to keep, the property's going to look really clean. It's going to look outstanding when we're done with it. So it should, if anything, enhance the look of the back of the house, enhance the look of the lake view. And, given the landscaping and the way that it currently looks, where there was, I think 4 years ago, they did with the retention pond, oh gosh, what's it called?
Dredge.
Thank you. And then they dredged it. And so what they did was they ran basically a plow and just took down every tree on the way to the access to the water. And in doing so, yes, they were able to dredge the lake, but it's still, that part of the property still looks pretty, it looks pretty bad. So, and in addition to that, we're going to clean all of that up. We're going to sod all of that and just kind of, just create that area and just give it a better look. Just give it an overhaul.
Okay, I have a few comments. One is, can you clarify the year that this home was built?
To my knowledge, the home was built in 2016, excuse me, 2014.
And you've lived there how long?
We've been there to be 5 years this month.
Okay. And then regarding replanting in the buffers, I would encourage you to talk to staff regarding that. The 25 is protected from the state, it's undisturbed, protected. So before you get into yourself in any headaches with sod or otherwise, make
Oh,
sure.
I'm sorry, this is on the west side of the house where they ran the bulldozer down and cleared everything.
All right, it's not in the
It has
buffer.
nowhere
The
close to
stream
that.
buffer.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's correct.
all right, we're fine then. I
No,
didn't
I'm
want
pretty
you to get in more
No,
trouble.
I'm not going to go any close to the 25.
Okay. Any other comments, questions for the applicant or for staff? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
With no further comments or questions of staff or the applicant, I'll make a note that the public comment is closed, and I would open the floor for a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2208 with the conditions as stated by staff, and that the appropriate consideration of the septic field be reviewed.
The reserve.
In
the reserve.
reserve septic. And in accordance with the plan received on May 18th,
May 13th.
No, 13th.
May 13th. Oh, I'm reading it
You're
upside down.
upside
I'm upside down. Yeah, okay. May 13th received by the city and drawn by, who was that? Drawn by Georgia Classic Pools. I think I covered it.
I'll second.
Oh, I should say, I do believe that this,
Well, we're going to get to discussion, but hang on, let me
Okay.
just restate the motion so everyone, then we'll go into discussion. So the motion is to approve V22-08 with the two recommended staff conditions, plus making sure that the reserve septic field is in compliance and not in conflict with this project, as well as per the site plan received May 13th, 2022 by Georgia Classic Pools. Now we're in discussion.
oh, no.
You
I-
raised the motion.
Sometimes we add it in with the motion, but I think this does meet all the conditions. And you've worked with the staff to improve what's going on, and you mitigated with the flow wells. So I think that you have met all the four conditions for a variance.
I'm going to add, I think there is a hardship to an extent, and, you know, with the shape of the lot, the direction the home was built on the lot, I don't understand the direction of that, but either way, I think that presents a challenge in and of itself, the pie-shaped as well as the significant drop-off. So I do think that there is a hardship with the property under the circumstances.
Okay. Any other discussion?
And I'll add that the applicant has really gone what I would consider to be above and beyond to work with the city staff and really bring that pool and the deck as much as possible out of those buffer areas.
Okay, so if there's no further discussion, the motion is to approve V22-08 to allow a pool and pool deck to encroach into the 75-foot impervious setback with the four conditions of water quality treatment to be provided for all new impervious surfaces as detailed in the Stormwater Plan Exhibit C, or as determined by the city development engineer through the permitting process. The foundation survey during permitting process of the new pool. Reserve septic system should be in compliance and not in conflict with the proposed pool. And per the site plan received May 13th, 2022 by Georgia Classic Pools. All those in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
We have, and that was Mr. Jackson was in opposition. The motion passes. Next item on our agenda. So good, hey, good luck with your project. This is just the beginning. Please stay in regular contact with staff through the permitting process and make sure we're dealing with all of mitigation for land disturbance, et cetera. But congratulations and thank you. The next item on our agenda is V22-09, 3123 Valley Forest Drive. Would staff please present?
The address is 3123 Valley Forest Drive, and the requested variance is reduce the side setback from 25 feet to 20 feet for a proposed single-family home. Section 64416C1. The site is a 1.49 acre lot located in the Manor Golf Course and Country Club subdivision. The property is Zone AG1 and is located in the rural Milton overlay district. The plat for the Manor Golf Course and Country Club subdivision was recorded in 2007. Applicable setbacks for the lot are 60-foot front, 50-foot rear, and 25-foot side. Loudermilk Homes LLC had a single-family home building permit issued on January 26, 22, where no variance was requested. Per the applicant's letter of appeals, after clearing the site and performing an as-built survey prior to foundation work, the applicant discovered the 25-foot state water understood buffer is further west than indicated on the building permit site plan. The applicant staked the 25-foot state water undisturbed buffer, and the 25-foot buffer was not disturbed. The applicant is proposing a new single-family home layout that is 20 feet from the western property line. Therefore, the variance is requested. The total square footage is to remain from the previous design at 6,079 square feet. The site plan shows the lot narrows towards the rear of the property. In addition, there is a stream with a 25-foot state water undisturbed buffer located on the northeastern side of the property. The lot has a steep drop in grade from west to east with an overall 22-foot drop in grade. The applicant is proposing 7 arborvitaes, green giants, along the western property line shown in landscape plan, which were reviewed by the city arborist. The DRB met on May 3rd, 2022, and the DRB recommended approval of this variance request. City staff recommends a foundation survey during permitting process of a new single-family home, if approved. Questions for staff?
You messed up.
Survey, right?
I think you printed the old thing and you read something else, so that's why the question here.
Yeah, I added some details after we talked to Josh about the disturbance. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the value of a site survey at the foundation level. That's a recommendation that staff is having moving forward. Would that have addressed or
No.
mitigated this?
So what happened was, this is like, as you can see, this was a final plat was recorded in 2007. The process is they get preliminary plat and then once the infrastructure is in, final plat. So I think they started preliminary plat back in 2006 or even maybe before. And I think they looked only at the center line of the creek and they platted with that. And so when they actually started building, we now require from the rested vegetation 25 foot. So that's how they realized that, they need to even move further than the center line of the stream.
Yeah, and I think Thomas, from talking to him, he wanted to make sure he was out of the 25-foot state buffer. So they did the foundation survey on their own accord, and they found that they were in it by 5 feet. But as I discussed with him, he did not disturb the 25-foot buffer. It was staked, and he has some photos he can provide on the overhead as well.
Okay, so it was the applicant who pursued a foundation site survey, which identified 2 things. One is the more accurate reference of the 25-foot state buffer for the stream, as well as the fact that the foundation that was being intended was going to encroach into the side yard by 5 feet.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And this property is subject to only a 25-foot state stream buffer because it was platted prior to us becoming a city.
Yes.
Other way around. It was platted in 07.
So that's a final plat. That's what I was saying. So they were
Yeah.
already vested into the process. So that's how they got vested into 25-foot only buffer.
And not the additional 50 and
Yes.
75, which the city now requires. Okay. So they were grandfathered in
Yeah.
of sorts. Okay. Does that help, Adam, get you up to speed, David?
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
I think we all need to get up to speed with how we got to this point.
Right.
Okay, so with that, then I'd ask the applicant to come forward and share more about this project and their hardship and such.
Thank you. Thomas Replogle. I'm with Loudermilk Homes. My address is 494 Coalwood Way. We designed the home for Mr. Perez based on the original plat that we had. And we designed the home, to maximize that buildable area. Got all the way through design, permitting, several months of work there. As my guys were going in and getting tree save and silt fence inspections, it was actually the city of Milton that recommended that we just take a quick look, make sure that we weren't encroaching. So we brought out a survey crew. The original design was encroaching into the setback based on the measurements they took out in the field, based on the rest of the vegetation that was mentioned. We looked at several different options. We thought about trying to get a variance into the state waterway. And as Michael mentioned, that is a pretty steep grade on that side. So it was actually going to make it more complicated to do. We looked at options of encroaching in the front setback. We looked at options of trying to slice and dice some of the house. We were up against some minimums and didn't want to compromise the home. We reached out to the neighbor and was able to get their support in encroaching into the side yard setback. His house is a higher elevation. So the part of the home that is going to be into that side yard setback is a single story garage. And so with the landscaping plan that we presented to him and the Manor HOA, that particular species of tree will buffer. He won't even really see much of the house, even though it's, within the setback. I do have some pictures. I know there was a concern about whether or not we actually did disturb that. And so I was able to go back through some of our notes, our photos, and these aren't the best. These are just from some of my builders on site. The erosion control. Is there a trick? Just let it do it. Okay, so the silt fence that you're seeing here, this stake right here was one of the first that we found as the actual setback of the stream.
Stream.
Yeah, and then when we had the house corner laid out per the original design, the corner was going to be where this blue cup is sitting on a stake. And it was about 4.2, 4.3 feet within that. So we actually didn't go into the stream buffer, thankfully. And when we recognized it, our proposal is to shift the house to the right side of the house into the neighbor's property. We do have letter of support from both him and the Manor HOA as well.
That's helpful because some of the pictures that we saw was concerned that there could be some construction activity in the state buffer, but this shows there's some protection that's already been put in place.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. As you said your name was Thomas, right?
Thomas, yes.
As you looked at alternatives and options, what changed with respect to the house?
Not a whole lot with the overall size and all of the home. We had our architectural department look at taking some slices through, and we were going to just get too tight on certain spaces. In order to fit this house on this particular lot, initially we had the challenges of that stream from the beginning, and so we had already kind of maximized the lot, but minimized some of the room sizes in order to do that. We even looked at maybe taking a foot out of the single car garage, and the compromise would be it'd become nothing more than a golf cart type garage if we did that. And so it was tough for us to take it out of the house, if you will.
Can we show the front elevation of the home?
Oh, yeah.
It's on page 11. So from that, you can identify, if you would, please, the garage area that would be, is impacted into the side yard buffer. And that is the side, front-facing garage. There's also a side entry garage.
The main garage here is side entry, so with the 3 windows here.
Right.
Is a side entry garage, and then this single car garage is front entry. Single car garage, this front entry is the part of the home that would encroach into that side yard setback.
Right. And if you move forward to page 12, I think this illustrates what you tried to describe in terms of elevation change. The pictures from page 12 of the packet. So what we're looking at, can you help just orient us and the public to what we're looking at there?
Sure. So this is the home that we would encroach into the side yard setback. And our basement slab down here. And so by the time we get the elevation, the top of that roof would be about right in here. There will be some retaining walls on that side just to step it down from the neighbor's property. And then the proposed landscape was to put some buffer evergreens in between there that'll give him something, he's not looking at the roof, he's looking at some plantings.
What about the rear of the house? Is this I guess off the kitchen, is that a deck? I'm looking at the, I'm looking at
The site plan.
On ours?
back to the site plan back here.
Yeah, so that is a walkout. So that's a walkout patio on the rear.
And what's the elevation change off the back from the back of the house to the back of the property? Or is there?
See the big one. All right. So the steep elevation is actually going down towards the creek over here. The back is fairly flat. This that you're referring to here is a covered patio. I believe this area here. Patio. There is plans to put a pool in back there, but the main level of the home is approximately 8 feet from the road higher. Yeah, so the main floor in this garage from curb is about 8 foot higher in elevation, but it's significantly lower from the neighbor that you saw in the picture.
Right. And it looks like from that same site plan, as you move, if you were to move the house further back,
It gets worse.
it actually gets worse. The
gets
property
worse.
narrows because of the stream buffer.
That's right. Yeah, the stream kind of follows that way. Like I said, we looked at pushing it forward, but the feedback we got was going forward was worse than going into the side from both the manor and the city.
Yeah, short of changing the layout of the home to take more front to back space.
Right. Yeah. We would have to completely redesign it.
Yeah.
Can you point out the approximate location of where the septic's going to be for this lot?
We're on sewer.
You're on sewer, okay.
And do we have anything in writing from this neighbor in support at 151? Okay. And they may be here to speak as well. I don't know. You do have support letter?
Yeah, it's in the packet.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant before we move to public comment?
No, thank you
So
very much.
you
Sorry,
you
is
heard,
that,
go ahead, Adam.
sorry, the letter we're talking about, that exhibit G, is that the neighbor? The higher
Yes.
neighbor there?
Yep, 3113 Valley Forest Drive.
Okay.
They're the one that's most impacted by that encroachment. Do we have any public comment? We do.
Yes.
And so are we, just to be clear, I should need a bigger desk.
Yeah, maybe that's why we were spread out before.
Okay, so let's first, we've been hearing from the applicant now for, 7 minutes or so. We start with a public comment in favor, and we're limited to a total of 10 minutes between the applicant's presentation and the public. And then we would allow an equal amount of time, up to 10 minutes, for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. So I'd first ask, do we have any public comment here in favor of this?
Not
project?
in person, it's in writing only.
From the neighbor?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is no other further public comment in favor? All right, with that, then I would make an introduction for anyone wishing to speak in opposition, noting that we've got a 10-minute or 7-minute cap, 10-minute cap, my bad, of opposition time.
Yes, we have one.
If you'd please announce the public comment card.
Mark Amick. Come on in.
Okay, Mark, if you'd please go forward, just stating your name and address for the record. Appreciate it.
Mark Amick, 3103 Valley Forest Drive. I'm on lot 150, which is actually just one lot over from this. The neighbor that's most affected, I'm on the corner. That's a pie-shaped lot. You'll see that in your packet there.
Yes.
I do want to clarify for my new neighbor as well that I'm not intending to stand in the way of this, okay? But I do have a condition or suggestion that I'd like to make with it. So I guess I would say I'm opposed to it as is, but would like to suggest an amendment. So if that works for you, put it that way. So if you're able to see that lot 150, I would also,
If you would
yes,
pause for 1 second, I think it'll help us follow along. If we could just put the picture of the aerial view to identify where you're at in relation. We have that available to us. And so you're the corner lot that's been developed, correct?
yes.
Thank you. Please continue. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure. I should also probably clarify that I'm the former board member for the HOA, multi-term president for the Manor HOA, and chaired the ARB for about 3 years, give or take a week, whenever it was official. So quite familiar with our building processes and a lot of things we changed within the ARB because I was the driver behind that with process. A couple things with this, and I appreciate the situation in which they're dealing with regards to the home. My comment would simply be this with regards to the landscape buffer, is that I would like to suggest that be, it's slated for 7 to 8 feet tall green giants. I think that I'd like to suggest that they be 9 feet or taller in terms of going in. There's enough space there. I've gone out and looked at it for the root balls. There's not anything consequentially different from that. We try to encourage buffering between the homes. I think this will help support that since it's going to be pushed out. There is an additional view, since this is up here, showing you street size. From that look, you'll see here that area being opened up right here. This isn't in your packets. This is just a picture I took this afternoon. But the size of those trees will matter. I would even consider putting one more up towards the front to help from a screening perspective. Again, we try to encourage that with our landscape plans. My understanding in speaking with Shanta Bass, our HOA administrator, is that this hadn't been approved yet by the HOA, and it was actually conditional based upon the city's approval. So I think there's still opportunity there to work with this. One other comment I would make is that I can also show that this is 2 trees I recently put in to supplement buffering on the other side of Chris, our neighbor. This is a further view, but these are cryptomerias that I put in. That mark shows that that's an 8-foot tree right there, more or less, give or take a little bend to the flexible tape measure. And there's 2 of them I put in there too. So we're trying to encourage, heavier landscaping between the homes. One other consideration just to be aware of, when the lot was being cleared, I did go through and work with the HOA and the ARB, I should say, excuse me, they are different. to reach out to them to do some additional tree save that was along that property line. Those trees were saved. They're towards the back rear, right along the fence. You'll see that in your packets. I have it shown here basically from the view of my yard. I singled them out here with these yellow dots just on my copy here. Because they were along the fence, they weren't, really material to be taken down, and we're trying to save as many trees as we can. We try also not to clear to the corners, so it provides a little bit more natural flow and feel to the yards, so they're not just cut squares. If those come down or become necessary for a pool or something along those lines, I would just say that maybe we look at putting something up that's additional that would help support that from a growth standpoint, to help provide that screening and everything else for the community, the golf course and neighbors, and obviously for them too. So just in that consideration, all that I would ask.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for coming forward to speak. It's never easy to do that as a neighbor. It was very constructive.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment in opposition?
No.
Okay. Before I ask the applicant to come forward with any closing comments, taking into consideration what was just stated, it was mentioned in the staff report that some conference had already been made with the city arborist regarding buffering as a mitigation to this intrusion. And I think the applicant has offered specific species to put into that location, giant whatever. So I'm just going to throw it out there before the applicant, so the applicant has this opportunity. It's often a condition of this board to have a landscape mitigation plan requested and reviewed by the Milton City Arborist. And that's something that I'm gauging from the neighbors' input. They're the professionals and have the benefit of hearing from the neighbor critique and suggestion. So with that, I'd ask the applicant to come forward. Is there any closing comments before we move into our own deliberation on the motion?
Sure. No, we would be more than willing to, take Mark's recommendation. We actually used for our preliminary landscape buffer plan, the HOA landscape architect. So we will, if regardless of species, size, we would be willing to put in whatever. And Mark, I didn't even think about his view. I was just thinking about the next door neighbor, so apologize for not coming to you. But yeah, we would be willing to choose a different species, size, quantity. And our intentions are to keep those trees in the rear per your request. If we find that we can't, for whatever reason, or they, don't make it through construction, we'll come back with something to replace them. So.
Okay. Is there anything further before I close public comment?
No, just thank you. For your time.
Anything further question-wise to the applicant or to staff?
I just want, I don't know if it's applicant and the staff. Can you just clarify for me one more time? The plat was there. If you built it to the original plat, you didn't have any problem with the stream buffer, right? That's what.
Yeah, correct. The original plat is either off or things have changed since the 2007. And so when we designed the home to that document.
So what's the next sequence that took place in terms of somebody did a survey and found out that the stream wasn't indicated in the right spot?
That's correct.
Is that was you, or that was the staff, that was the city, or?
Yeah, so we called in for a tree save and silt fence erosion control inspection from the city, and the inspector at the time said, hey, you might want to just double check. I don't know for sure, but it's worth us bringing in a survey crew just to double check and as a company, we check building corners. And so between the two, we discovered the corner of the building into
So
this.
you're trying to be, I'm sorry. So you're trying to be the good guy here and be in compliance, but has the actual plat changed such that he's building to a new, if you will, plat to this new stream buffer, or is he still building to the original plat, in which case he doesn't have a problem?
So I would
think the
say
former.
that the city doesn't determine the location of the stream. It's the surveyors who do that. So back then, whatever survey they had, they worked off of that, but now they did the additional survey this year or last year, and then they realized that they needed to move the house even further on the whatever west.
They meaning the applicant?
Yes.
Okay, but I think it's great that you found this and let everybody know, but if in fact he builds to the original plat, I don't see that we have a problem. And the reason I'm concerned, I don't know, and this may be a legal question, I don't know that we have the right to grant a variance into the state buffer, do we?
They're not going in state buffer now.
Right.
They're out of state buffer.
So he's up to, he's
Go in the
at
other
it,
direction.
but this is the intrusion.
Okay, I thought that you said you still had some,
No, sir.
okay.
We're completely out of
I'm
the
out of it.
25.
Thank
The
you.
25-foot state
Okay.
buffer is not affected at all.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good now.
So this is a general question, I guess. So before you go in and build, y'all do not do surveys?
Yeah, they are required to have survey done, and I don't know what went wrong over there, but they probably took the original survey and started working off of that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is they used the original survey, and it was a different company that we actually brought in to back check. We actually ended up doing it twice because we wanted to make sure. I mean, it's a major thing.
Major, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 15 years difference, obviously. That could make a difference with where the water moves. Okay. I don't know if that's something to consider, how long plats have been done or surveys have been done for the city to check. I don't know who does that, but it may be a suggestion, I guess, to say.
But it is a matter of practice for this. Can you speak to what's the practice that we're moving towards regarding foundation site surveys with the permitting process going forward?
Right, it's not in place yet, but we are starting with you guys to have a condition at least, so that before they pour in foundation, they show us the survey so that they don't encroach into either setbacks or buffers. But Michael's working on a text amendment so that we can actually require foundation surveys moving ahead, so that we won't have this kind of situation.
Makes sense?
Yeah. Okay, any other questions for the applicant or for staff before we close public comment?
Well, I don't know. I guess just simply with what we were talking about with the trees and landscaping, if that's something, now, obviously we have some trees on here, but what we're talking about is maybe there could be additional or different or more. How would that get handled with the city? If we were if we made a condition, we would say it'd have to be approved by a city landscape arborist. Gotcha.
Okay, I think you can take a
All
seat.
right, thank you.
Thank you. So I'll make a note that the public comment is closed, and I would open the floor for a motion and a second. I think I'll take this one. Petition V22-09 to reduce the side yard setback from 25 feet to 20 feet for a proposed single-family home. Make a motion to approve with the following conditions. A foundation survey during the permitting process of the new single-family home. A landscape mitigation plan approval by the Milton City Arborist to buffer at the western property line. Per site plan received April 1st, 2022 by McWhorter and Anderson.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. We have four considerations of which the applicant needs to meet all four of. There's clearly some extraordinary and exceptional situations regarding this property and how it's situated and how things have evolved since the original platting. The impact to the neighbors is certainly something that we're considering and working to mitigate. And the applicant's willing to work towards that end, which also there aren't any apparent public safety, health, and welfare issues as a result of this project. So I believe that they meet all 4 thresholds in order to seek our approval. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving with the 3 conditions as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That motion passed unanimous. I don't have to tell you this, but I will. Continue to work hand in hand with the city staff, and I appreciate the fact that you've done that up to this point. And I should also add, and continue to work with the HOA and the Architectural Review Board to make sure that you're moving into a neighborhood of welcoming neighbors. Okay. The next item on our agenda is V22-10, 2200 Birmingham Road. Would staff please present?
Address is 2200 Birmingham Road. There are 2 total variances requested. To reduce the side yard setback adjacent to the street from 40 feet to 33.5 feet for an existing single-family home, Section 64416C2. To allow the existing single-family home to remain in front of the proposed single-family home for a guest house use, Section 6415985. The site is a 9.77 acre parcel located on the northwest side of Birmingham Road and Henderson Road intersection in the rural Milton overlay. The property is zone AG1. The applicant is currently subdividing the property into 3 parcels through the minor plat process, which revealed the non-conforming single-family home. The side corner setback requirement in AG1 zoning is 40 feet. The minor plat dated March 22nd, 2022 shows the existing family home is 33.5 feet adjacent to Henderson Road from the side street property line, with a total encroachment of 6.5 feet. The applicant is requesting this variance to bring the existing house in compliance with the current zoning ordinance. The applicant is also seeking a variance to allow the existing single-family home to remain in front of the proposed primary single-family house for a guest house use. The applicant is proposing to build the primary single-family home in the northwest corner of the property and use the existing single-family home for a future guest house use. The 9.77 acre parcel also has a barn, which is to remain. The barn will house animals and complies with the requirement to be 100 feet from all property lines and is permitted to be in front of the primary residence structure when a new single-family home is built. Pictures of the property are presented in Exhibit C. Also noted, there is an existing greenhouse that's not conforming, which is 36.7 feet from the side property line, with a total encroachment of 3.3 feet. The greenhouse is currently under review through the minor variance process, Section 6418887. The Community Development Director can grant minor variances to minimum yard requirements not to exceed 10% of the requirement, as long as no objections have been submitted in writing to the Community Development Director. And I just want to note on the record, we have not received any opposition as of yet. The DRB met on May 3rd and recommended the following. DRB recommends approval of this variance request. Keeping the 6.7 acre parcel as a whole is consistent with the City of Milton rural character. Recommended condition from staff. A foundation survey during permitting process of new single-family home. Any questions for staff?
I have a question. This is outside the Birmingham, what do you call it? They have their own,
No,
Overlay.
it is within the rural overlay.
it is within the Birmingham overlay. You said the Milton overlay.
Rural
Did I-
Milton.
Well,
Talking about DRB.
no, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There's a rural Milton overlay, and then there's
Birmingham
a
Crossroads.
Birmingham overlay. Is this not in the
No,
Birmingham?
no.
It's the
It's
same.
Not in the
outside.
Birmingham.
Okay, good, thank you.
So I think there was a lot of conversations going on there.
Go ahead, speak.
As stated in the staff report, this is in the rural Milton overlay. It's not in the Birmingham Crossroads overlay.
Correct.
Okay. And I guess for an abundance of clarification, what does that mean, it being in the rural Milton overlay?
It just means if they have to meet rural view shed, and there are other overlay regulations like height. Other than regular AG1, there are some other regulations they will have to meet, but not too many, yeah.
Okay.
And the house will be subject to architectural review because of the fronting the Birmingham Road.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Can you give us a little bit more history of what's going on here with this property in total, and its a minor plat, and what that means?
Right. I believe the minor plat was submitted in December of last year, and they're currently going through the plat process. And they're taking 2 proposed parcels, and they're redrawing them to create 3 total parcels. And in doing so, it was discovered by staff that the existing house is over the side street setback line. And we can't bring this plat to council for consent agenda for approval with non-conforming structures on them. So her only recourse was to demo the structure or seek a variance.
Okay, and if I'm looking at, I believe it's Exhibit B, could we put that up if it's not already? I think this will help illustrate. And it's the one with the proposed house in red.
Yep, that's it.
Take this.
Yeah, it's up there.
Okay, so the parcel originally was, I believe, 9.77 acres, is that correct?
Yes.
Can you put up page 2, which is the aerial view,
Page 2 of what?
our packet, with the aerial view?
This one.
Okay.
So the red line is the entire parcel. It looks like there's a fainter line in the bottom right corner from a GIS standpoint that references a parcel itself. Can you explain that?
Which center line?
Talking about this abandoned.
And on this Moongate minor subdivision plat, it looks like that property line is being abandoned.
Combine them at the same time she can combine them at the same time she can divide it, and it all goes through minor platting process, because she's basically having only 3 parcels, carved out of this whole process. So it's still a minor plat, and I mean, basically, she's going to keep the largest parcel, and the small parcel that is the house is on, it's going to be included into the parcel that she's going to own for future,
Okay, so this project is going through a minor subdivision
Yes,
platting process.
yes,
And as a result of that, the intent would be to have 3 total lots,
correct.
but that can't be taken forward to city council until some of these issues, variance-wise, are addressed.
Yes, all parcel needs to be in compliant before they can be done get any other permits, basically.
Okay, and as part of that, subdividing those 2 smaller parcels, she would also be abandoning the existing property line for the existing home that's on the property.
Yep.
Okay. Just want to make sure we were all clear on where we are in the process and how we got here. And so none of this is final plat because it is still under consideration as a minor subdivision plat.
Correct.
And then my next question is regarding the ability to future subdivide this parcel being the full 9.77. Is that right? 9.77 acres?
Yes.
I think the total one is, but once they subdivide, the largest parcel is 6-point-something acres,
6 point what?
6.1,
6.70.
6.67 acres.
Okay.
Yeah. So technically, she could subdivide it one time as another minor plat because she can make 3-acre and 3-acre lots. However, she is considering TDR, and the TDR is a transfer of development rights where I think she's going to, this is not in the report because it's really preliminary. She will be selling her development rights to the receiving area of TDR, which is Crabapple or Deerfield area. And so once she does that, she will not be able to subdivide the largest parcel that she owns. She can only have one primary house on that 6-acre lot, basically.
All right, so I know this can be complicated, but if she were to do something like that and the development rights come down to Crabapple, what does that mean for Crabapple?
Crabapple is a receiving area officially, so it does accept the development rights. So there is a potential subdivision works in Crabapple that will receive that extra units to build over here in Crabapple. So they'll get more density, which she's selling over there. She will be selling over here. That's how the transfer of development right work.
Right.
So there's receiving and the recipient would be either Deerfield or
basically where the density is
Crabapple
gonna
to
be.
allow for more density.
Right.
In exchange,
For not having-
parcels such as this 6.7 acres would be restricted from subdivision in perpetuity.
Yes.
So
And
you're trading areas of density.
we have this
Yes.
Density
program.
there, density here.
We have this program so that we can have larger lots in the rural Milton area, whereas we can have more density in Crabapple or Deerfield area. So those are receiving areas, and leftover in the Milton is all sending areas of TDR.
Oh, yeah, can
Question.
we go back to the part about the guest house and the primary house? So the new one proposed is not built yet, and that would be the primary, is that what we're saying?
Yes, so her intent is to build a primary house over here where you're seeing the red
Right.
box. The existing house is a really small house. It's less than 1,500 square feet.
Can you point it out on that diagram you have up?
It's
Is
over
that-
here.
Oh, then what's the other one just
This
behind?
one is a
That's a
barn.
barn.
Oh, that's the barn, I can't.
It's a
read that.
barn
Okay.
that is housing animals, and she is going to intend to use it as
Okay,
a,
so that small house is the one that needs the variance for the side lot? Okay.
yes.
And then we would be approving, is it normal to approve ahead of the building of a new house, a guest house in front of it? Is that, the sequence seems out of, I don't know. Wouldn't that be, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we when they are ready, usually when they are ready to build, they will come to us for a variance because they can't build another house until they have this house to be designated as a guest house.
Sequencing isn't necessarily off, but the clarity on the future home in terms of a design or specific site plan location is unusual.
Yeah, we would
We
be.
usually have more clarity on that.
And we would be approving a guest house to be in front of a house that doesn't exist.
Correct.
Yeah, but
I don't know. I guess that's
yeah, I
okay.
know, I understand that, but even if you put house anywhere on this larger parcel, that tiny house is always going to be in the front, and it's so to keep it there as a guest house, she will be needing a variance. It could be in 6 months later, or it could be 10 years later, she is going to need that variance. So we were just trying to get it all at one time. Also, one thing that played into this is that she is actually in the process of looking into selling the TDR, the transfer of development rights. And to do that, she will need a little more cleaner documents to say that this is not a primary house. There is no primary house on this larger lot. So that will help her get a cleaner site plan to sell the TDR. That was the idea.
Okay. This is a corner lot in terms of it abuts both Birmingham Road and Henderson Road. Based on based on how it's been introduced, can you please leave the site plan up? Is it staff's determination legally then that Birmingham Road is the frontage?
Yes, this is front setback.
So the driveway though is on the side and the mailbox is on Henderson as well, but
Yeah.
that doesn't matter.
No,
And if she were to put a home in that bottom left-hand corner, it technically wouldn't be in, it wouldn't, the potential guest house would be in a side yard, not in a front yard.
Right.
Yeah, and from talking with the zoning manager, the shorter side distance is always the front.
Right.
And it's 330 feet off of Birmingham.
so
Correct, but if she puts one in that bottom left corner, it's not. However, I'm going to be fair, However, that would mean a more visual impact to the rural view shed if she were to have a home built up closer to Birmingham Road. Even though she couldn't legally do that, that wouldn't necessarily be as aesthetically pleasing as something tucked in the back corner of the estate. So just wanted to make sure everything's out in the open on this before we bring the applicant forward.
Are we approving the proposed future home site?
No, we are not approving the proposed future home site. However, the way this is set up, as you can see, this is a flag, 2 flag lots here. They're going to share a drive.
Let's see.
And there's a.
This is how it is set up. So most likely she will put a house where she is saying.
It would be lining 3 houses up in a row on the left side of the lot with a driveway running right down the right side of those lots to all 3 lots.
Is it proposed to put houses on those other lots?
What?
Is it proposed to put additional houses on those 2 lots?
These are separate lots. They're going to be houses.
Once and if the minor plat is
Yes,
approved.
if the minor plat gets approved, you're right, Todd.
And the barn, let's just talk about the barn in terms of its compliance with any buffering from property lines.
It is 100 feet from all property lines. It's in compliance.
And there is no buffering required to the residence itself for a
No.
barn.
And a barn is not prohibited from being in front of a house.
Yes, the barn housing animal is allowed to be in the front of the house.
So if that barn was not being used to house animals, then they would require a variance for that? Because it would just be a
Yes,
simple
yes, it
accessory
would.
structure
Yes.
in the front?
But,
Okay.
yeah,
Boy, this parcel just hits a lot of items.
I know, yeah.
Okay. Do we have any additional questions? I think we've got a good, solid basis of how we got here and what's being contemplated.
This is
Agree?
the one that I had the least amount of questions on.
Okay, so with that, then I'd ask the applicants to come forward and enlighten us further. Maybe you'll thank us for discussing this so you don't have to stand there the whole time while we
Yeah.
contemplate.
My name's Yana Chevalier, 2200 Birmingham Road. Just to clarify real quick, the dotted line around the home was due to the previous owner putting the entire property in a cuva. So that required that 1 acre to be carved off in some way. So that's why it's being reincorporated into the 6.77 acres, if that makes sense.
You just had to introduce a new
I was
variable.
about to say, somebody's going to have to explain this.
Let's make it simple. They carved out 1 acre to make that 1 acre residential. They left the remaining acreage agricultural only, saves money on taxes.
Yes, like he said that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of the Kuwa situation.
The previous.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, they have a choice to keep it that way or it goes away once it.
So, but you're stating new terminology that I think we all should be on the same page with. If staff could please give us just a quick
So Kuwa.
synopsis of KUVA.
KUA stands for Conservation Use Valuation Assessment. It is used to reduce taxes, property taxes, so that once they carve out, they put certain part of the property into KUA, the taxes for that part of the property is less than the 1 acre that they will be using for residents. So that's how people save on taxes using KUA. And this is a program by Fulton County or I think it's Fulton County.
It's a state
It's a
program.
state program, yeah.
Okay. So as part of seeking this minor plat, you would also be abandoning the KUVA that has existed up to
The
this
KUVA is
point?
already abandoned because in order to be in compliance with a KUVA, it has to be an existing agricultural business where you're doing livestock or
That's right.
something agricultural related to bring in income, which I am not doing.
Okay,
That is strictly for personal use.
all right.
So if I may just share with you why I purchased the property and what we were intending to do. Our goal when we purchased this farm in August of last year was to maintain the Milton aesthetic with the quintessential horse farm that serves as a family compound that houses 3 and hopefully 4 generations on one property with our horses and our animals. We have the existing farmhouse that was built in 1955, which would hopefully serve as our guest house for my parents to live in, along with the stables, the ring, that's the dotted line at the top across from the proposed future home, and the existing long-term pastures. And then the future home in the top northwest corner. So that would be the 6.7 acre tract. Then the 2 additional plats, track 2 and track 3, are for my adult kids to build on. That's why we're flagging those off. We've applied for the minor plat, which we're just waiting for signatures. Apparently it's approved, assuming that all this goes well today. And then we just need signatures. We've been waiting on the minor plat to be approved for quite a few months. So we've been working on the site plans. As far as impact on others, one of the redeeming qualities of this farm is the level of privacy that the tract provides. There's significant distance from other property owners as Birmingham Road and Henderson Road borders 2 full sides of our 9.77 total acres. The impact to the neighbors would be very minimal as the sightlines of the farmhouse are extremely limited due to the mature privacy tree lines along both roads. So the only homes which would potentially see the existing guest house would be my new proposed home on track 1 at the top. That's the way the topo is. The barn is in between the sightline, and then the 2 additional plat lots that we're proposing. Obviously, the hardship would be extreme to demolish the stone farmhouse that's been existing for over 65 years. So we do hope the council takes that into account on both these variance requests, and thank you for your consideration.
So we talked openly with staff to understand how we got here and what's still being worked through in terms of the minor subdivision plat. We heard TDR. We'd like to talk to you about where you feel that is in the process. That's your choice to enter into a TDR arrangement. So can you enlighten us?
Sure. Well, obviously the KUVA, beautiful concept, except for I do not want to run a livestock business. So next best thing to preserve the property. Again, I've been a Milton resident for 20 some years. So I've waited forever for this to be available to me. So I want to keep it as a farm. We are avid equestrians. So the stable, the ring, the pastures, All those would be utilized by our family horses. And the point was to preserve it all, keep it all, and be able to, again, house my parents, my kids, myself, all on one property. And without disturbing, I don't know if you noticed, but the way that we flag the lots, we don't even want to touch the fence lines that exist. The pastures are very established and beautiful. Don't want to touch the ring. We don't want to touch anything that's existing there now. We're just trying to work around what's there. So the TDRs will allow me to preserve the land in some way without having to enter a CUVA.
Okay, but there's a process for that.
Yes.
And I think what you're hearing from our discussions up to this point and some from staff is your intent is to preserve this property, and your intent is to move down a TDR. That could
Yes.
fall apart because there's two parties that need to.
We already have a contractual agreement.
So would you be amenable to a condition that the 6.7 acres be entered into a TDR or not to be further subdivided as a condition for this variance?
I am fine with either. I do not, the TDRs are fairly a new process to the city of Milton, so there's been quite a bit of ambiguity in trying to get it through the process. There are a few roadblocks which are completely out of my control, and they may be in your all's control, I'm not sure, of how to get this done. So I wouldn't want it just on the TDRs because I may or may not get those.
It could fall apart.
Right, it could fall apart. It was my understanding, and I could be completely wrong from listening today, that I've already done 3 changes to this property, which means it can't be changed further. And one was removing that 1 acre CUVA line, and the other 2 was creating those 2 flag lots. I have zero intention of subdividing the 6.77. I've gone through great lengths to try to keep that all intact. So however that would need to be done, I'm happy to do it. I just wouldn't want it contingent specifically only on the TDRs because I don't know if we can get that done.
Correct. So I want to ask the city attorney for some guidance on this. So first of all, somewhat familiar with the TDRs, having been on this board for 15 years. I think the city has done 1 or 2.
1.
Okay. And so that's why I'm trying to address this as an or, either this 6.7 acre parcel to be entered into the TDR bank or agreement with the city of Milton to not further subdivide the 6.7 acres. Is that something that is, the city attorney would support that language?
Yeah, I guess they're almost to some extent, 2 different things. Or they're either exactly the same or 2 different things. So if your intention is to protect further subdivision, then that's probably sufficient. They might put it into TDRs, they might not. I don't know that impacts the decision because if it's already being used as a residence, once you say no further subdivision, that there's not going to be any more. I don't know what the potential benefit of making them put it in a TDR on top of further subdivision would be. So I'm not sure what the intention of requiring a TDR program would be outside of preventing future subdivision.
That would be, but however, that could fall apart. So the fallback would be if that doesn't move forward, then agreement with the city of Milton not to further subdivide would be the binding.
If you just
piece.
make it, I mean, if your concern is to make it, no future subdivision, you could just do that without worrying about
Without
whether
even introducing the TDR
Right.
dynamic, because the TDR dynamic would be up to you to
Yeah.
pursue.
Sure.
that could be pursued or not pursued.
Not pursued. So just part 2, which is agreement with the city of Milton to not subdivide the
A condition
6.7.
would be the owner, the property shall not be subdivided.
And to clarify, that condition would stay with the property.
That would stay
Not
with
with
the
the owner.
property.
That passes with the deed.
If it passes with that condition, yes.
Okay.
why are we having this discussion? It seems to me we have two variances that we've been requested to. Why are we making decisions relative to a TDR or not TDR and whether the property, I mean, it'd be nice, it's nice for the city to remain nice big farm area, but I don't get what that has to do with us. And let me.
So, James, can I answer that?
Okay,
Because I brought
good.
it up.
But I have another question after that.
That's fine, that's fine. So I brought it up for discussion so that the applicant had an opportunity to speak and the city attorney to help advise us. Having heard that, I think it's much simpler, in my mind, if I were to introduce a condition, it would be an agreement not to further subdivide the property if you want to have a guest house, knowing that, so that's that's the purpose of me having that conversation. For my purposes, not necessarily that binds this board to anything.
Yeah,
So,
okay. I think we have to have maybe a little more discussion on that, but how big is the guest house, the current primary house? we
About
know?
1,300 square feet, but I think only about 1,000 of it is truly heated. It had
Okay.
been added on and added on in tiny little increments over the years. The attic and the laundry room is not heated and cooled. So
Is the staff comfortable that this meets under the 1,500
Yes.
square foot requirement? Okay. Now, why would you not, I mean, I'm back to why are we approving something that, for a condition that doesn't exist, meaning the new house?
because
Let me just say the rest of it. So notwithstanding Todd's concern about keeping this all in one big plot, why would you not have, in the process of making these other two plots for your children, made a new plot for your parents on that guest house, and then we wouldn't be worrying about a guest house?
well,
That makes sense?
Yes, I had that question.
I
I said, yes, it does make sense because I had the same question.
Same question?
so
Well, I-
making 4 parcels instead of 3?
Correct.
I mean,
Is that your question?
well, basically, yes.
You mean making it 4 parcels rather than, yeah, I'm hoping to take care of my parents and have them welcome on the farm as part of one unit and being part of the family compound so that it stays within the family and stays together as one piece. I wouldn't want to carve up what's existing there. That was.
But you're carving out for your children.
But that's all woods and it's not part of the farm per se. I mean, I guess it is technically, but it's not usable land. It is absolutely beautiful the way it is. I didn't want to tarnish it in any way. I wanted to keep it exactly the same without disturbing what was already done and clearly has been there for a very, very long time. In fact, the gentleman who grew up in that house, who says, by the way, that house was built way before 1955, knocked on the door right before we purchased it. And that used to be part of a huge dairy farm. And he told me all the history. Not that any of that really matters in all of it, but I'm trying to keep it as undisturbed as possible and very much try to coax my parents into spending as much time there as possible. They live in Cumming, they're elderly, they're over 80. It will come a time that they will need to be there full-time rather than just on the weekends and things of that nature. So I just kept it that way for, I guess, legal purposes and for ease of moving my parents in there when they're ready to do that.
So I just wanted to point out that the Fulton County records have this main building, the stone house, at 1,575 square feet with a carport of an additional 408 square feet.
That's including the carport, no?
It's 1,575 plus an additional 400. The living space is 1,575.
I would think that
Gone or calculated, we are just taking the numbers.
Yeah, that's straight from Fulton County.
I don't think that could even remotely be possible. Maybe with the carport, but no. And they said that's all heated and cooled as well?
It's got living space, total living area, 6 rooms, 1,575 square feet. Plus an additional 408 for carport. As by this nice little map. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there.
The attic is not heated and cooled, and the laundry room is definitely not heated and cooled. But I would, I don't have my appraisal, but I just recently had the crawl space, the plastic put down on the crawl space, and that was right at 1,000. And that included all the unheated inherent areas, not the carport though. There was nothing under the carport.
That included all the heated areas, the living space.
The living space, but again, some of the areas that were built on, like the laundry room on the front, it does not heated and cooled, but it is part of the main footprint. And the only thing that's upstairs is an attic that is not heated and cooled.
So according to the appraisal, it was 1,310 square feet.
I believe
heated.
that's where I got the number from. I worked off of, it had to have been the appraisal. I haven't had anything else done to the house.
You mentioned you have animals. What kind of animals do you have for your farm?
I'm sorry?
What kind of animals besides, you
Horses.
had said horses, just horses?
And dogs, and if my daughter has her way, a couple minis.
How many horses do y'all have?
Right now we have 3, but
What is the per acre requirement per horse for lots, for pasture land? You're gonna house them there, right?
yes, but these are hunter jumpers. They are primarily stay inside, except for a couple hours a day, be outside on the pasture. And one actually has a metabolic condition that cannot be on the pasture. So there is also a dry lot on there that he will be in. So we have more than enough pasture for 2.
Okay.
Is
But
there, let me ask staff,
There
is
is
there a
thumb rule.
requirement?
No, there is no requirement, but there is thumb rule that 1 acre per horse.
That's a rule of thumb,
Right.
but there's not a city ordinance
We
requirement.
don't require minimum or maximum anything.
Okay,
Got a question for staff.
go ahead.
On the guest house that's in the front yard, what's the maximum square footage that's allowed per the ordinance on
For
that?
the guest house?
For the guest house,
Yeah,
yes.
it's 1,500
1,500
heated square.
Heated? Okay.
We don't have accurate information as to what that is, though.
Yeah, we haven't, we haven't required them to give us the floor plans or anything like that so that we can check exactly. Fulton County could be right, could be wrong.
Right, that's what I'm saying. We
No,
we don't
they're not
necessarily have
always
the right
exact, right?
information.
So,
No, trust me, I know that.
I'm
go
sorry,
on
did
record
Fulton
and say
County
they're definitely
that
not.
was
Tax assessor has,
15,
yeah.
15, what was it?
1575 living space. I don't know what that means. That's
I was
just in
gonna say,
the,
does
that's in
living
the,
space mean heated
that's in
and
the
cooled?
Fulton
Or-
County property records, and based on my appeals of those numbers, that's what they mean.
They mean heated and cooled living space.
That's the way I understand it to mean. And I'm not
Okay.
sure how they came up with those numbers, where they got those numbers, how that happened. Because trust me, they surprise me with numbers all the time.
That
But
would be
yes,
fantastic if it was that
the
big,
best
but it's not.
information would be an appraisal
Right.
or a,
And you can always have the condition not to increase the footprint of the guest house.
so I'm just curious, your opinion on making 3 flag lots in a row and the, out of almost 10 acres in the rural viewshed, or just the rural land conservation of Milton equestrian lifestyle, and taking this, 10-acre farm and parceling it off into a much smaller subdivided space.
Well, as I said, I think it's 2 flag lots. So the third lot would be the estate lot, the 6.7 acres, which would stay completely intact the way it is. All the pastures, all the fence lines, the ring, the barn. So what is existing there today as a horse farm would stay completely intact. None of it would be disturbed. The only thing, the 2 flag lots on the side, that is all woods and unutilized, it's uncleared, unused. So
it's
From
forest
aesthetic-
area essentially.
yeah, total forest area. It was never developed. No trees were cut down. There's no fence line. There's no usability of it at the moment. So again, what you see there today as the horse farm would stay completely intact. Nothing would be knocked down. Nothing would be moved. Everything would stay in place.
Which I believe the city staff would say that maintaining the 6.7 acre parcel would be something that they would encourage versus subdividing it further to accommodate a guest house as its own parcel.
Right.
Is that clear? Or is that the intent of the city to encourage a 6.7? All right.
Oh, well,
Any other questions for the applicant or for staff?
Have you spoken to the neighbors?
No. My neighbors are, as you can see from here, I don't even, can't see any of their homes from my house. And I'm not even quite sure what is north of me because I can't see there. It is so thick of trees.
I believe it's a subdivision to the north and a single large lot to the left, whichever direction. I'm not sure which direction we're facing. We're looking north. It
Subdivision
would be to
across
the west
Henderson
side
Road.
there. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
some houses to the front. That's a carve out, and then a large parcel behind it, and then a subdivision to the north.
But they've all been notified neighbor-wise, and there may be some public input tonight.
Oh, the neighbors have been notified?
We always notify neighbors
Oh, okay.
within the 300 feet from the property.
Gotcha.
They have
From
a
the
big
property
sign
line.
there too. It's just really hard. You can't even tell that there's a house back there from, even when you're sitting on Henderson Road. It's really hard to see. It's very thick, the tree line. And then they did big, huge cypresses along Birmingham. You would have to really slow down and peek in between huge cypresses to even see that house.
Has the subdivision already been approved for the 2 flag lots? So
It can't be
Why is-
with the existing
Right.
non-compliance.
But I'd have to challenge, keeping a 6-acre lot. Why aren't we keeping a 9-acre lot? Why is the city going forward and approving the flag lots when we would want to keep we want to keep a 6-acre farm, but yet we're dividing up a 9-acre farm. So I can't quite follow the logic that says, well, we're keeping a 6-acre farm. You know what I mean? You're dividing up a 9-acre large area. I wouldn't say farm, let me say a large plot of 9 acres, and the city encouraged keeping large plots. So, but yet the city is willing to support the 2 subdivisions here to bring the 9 down to 6. But then when we talk about maybe carving out a little piece for the house, that would be inconsistent. So I'm a little,
By right, the applicant could take this 9-acre lot and subdivide it into 1-acre parcels by right. And instead, she is choosing to carve out 2 flag lots and retain the 6.7, which would be consistent with what Milton would encourage over generally. And it's the lesser of 2 evils, right? I mean, you could either maintain a large chunk, or it could go to the furthest extreme and end up being by right 1-acre lots.
And I did have to beat out a developer to buy this because I'm sure that's exactly what he was trying to do.
Right. So
I mean,
if the city were to encourage her to carve out a 4th parcel, now we got checkerboard going on. We're further reducing the pie if we did that to make it compliant.
I mean, it becomes a bigger issue with city council and the size of lots and whether or not Milton intends on preserving any land in the future, because this is what happens.
And this applicant.
And there are no more,
willingness to
I
preserve.
mean, there really aren't any large lots left.
I understand. So why not retain a 9-acre lot?
No,
We can't stop.
I mean, the argument doesn't hold when you say we're giving up a 9-acre lot, but we're going to preserve a 6-acre lot. To me, that doesn't hold water. I don't know.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying, though. You're trying to say, if we're going to do this, let's make sure that the 6-acre at least is
Right.
preserved.
Well, because
Well,
like,
I
for example,
understand.
if the developer had beat me out, like you said, there would be 6 or 7 homes on the 9.7 acres rather than my house and my kid's house. So that would have been the other, I guess,
So,
as you call it, the right of,
so the city's willing up to give a few subdivisions here and there, but not, I mean, where's the line, right? I mean,
Well, it's not the city giving anything. It's the
Well,
applicant's
every
right.
property that's AG1 has a right to be 1 acre. I mean, 1 acre is, 1 house per acre is a density. So, I mean, they can subdivide even more, but
So the city is not necessarily telling her what she can do. She's bringing forward a plat and saying, I'd like to just carve out a portion of this for 2 lots and then retain the rest.
But is it not true that the city council will have to approve this
Yeah,
subdivision?
that's why we're here.
So the city council may not us, the city
Right.
council.
They may not.
They might not want to approve those flag lots either.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're just here to approve the variance.
Yeah, I mean,
on
we're-
the-
The 2-part.
Right.
Yeah.
That's-
Two-part
Yeah, I
variance.
kind of like, I think we're getting out of our league,
I agree.
trying to do something for preserving the 6 acres versus the 9 acres, when what we really our role is to look at variances, and you have 2 variance requests. I think we need to stick to 2 variance requests and decide on those. And I don't know why we're architecting 6 acres or 9 acres as the business of this council. I
Okay,
just don't see it as our role.
okay,
I don't know.
understood. Any further questions before we move to public comment?
I had a question, I forgot. It was relevant too.
You'll get one more chance. Just stay close. Moving, you can step back for a second.
Okay,
You have an opportunity to make a closing comment. I want to introduce to see if there's any public comment to speak in favor or against. And we're at that, we're surpassed the 10-minute mark already. So Shuba, Michael, is there any public comment that you're
No.
aware of? Are there any letters of
No,
support or
Not support,
opposition?
not opposition.
Okay. So if you're welcome to come forward for a closing comment before I close public comment and move to a motion.
yes, obviously we've covered the gamut here, but I think the only way to remedy this, the 2 variances specifically that I'm speaking of, is to demolish this 65-plus-year-old stone home that has been there for a very long time, probably before the roads were even there, but that would be an extreme hardship and a financial hardship too, because that is a big part of the property's value. And I would just really hope that you would consider saving it.
Okay, thank you. Any final questions for the staff or applicant before I close the public comment? Okay, I'll make a note that the public comment is closed, and I'll open the floor for a motion and a second. And I'll take this one as well. This is petition V22-10, 2200 Birmingham Road. First variance request is to reduce the side yard setback adjacent to the street from 40 feet to 33.5 feet for an existing single-family home. Make a motion to approve that with no conditions. Second part of the variance, to allow the existing single-family home to remain in front of a proposed primary single-family home for guest house use. And also make a motion to approve with conditions. First condition is a foundation survey during the permitting process for a new single-family home. Second condition, per the site plan Exhibit A and B, minor subdivision plat for Moongate Manor. Third condition, applicant shall enter into a binding agreement with the city of Milton to not subdivide the 6.70 acre lot. Fourth condition, existing guest house footprint in square feet not to exceed 1,500 square feet.
Mr. Chairman, is not here. I don't think you need to have the condition to enter into an agreement. You can impose the condition that it not be subdivided. No further action required to enter into any sort of agreement.
Okay, so I'll restate the third condition to the 6.7 acre parcel shall not be permitted to be subdivided further as the third condition. All right, without a second, I'll need to open the floor for,
Are you referencing
Can I-
site plan at all, or? no?
I
We have to wait and get a
referenced
second, then we
the
can discuss.
Exhibit A and B.
Okay.
Since we don't actually have a dated, received dated.
It's dated 3/22 on the site plan.
Thank
on
you.
the bottom-
So
on the
per
bottom
site
corner.
plan, Exhibit A and B, minor subdivision plat for Moongate Manor dated 3/22/22. Thank you, Michael.
I'll second the motion.
As we move into discussion, I felt it was important that from a condition standpoint, that we reference what is being contemplated before city council from a minor subdivision plat. B, in the interest of allowing a guest home in the rear of the property, which would be fitting to the rural overlay, to also prevent further subdivision in allowing for a guest house in the front. And then to address the complexity of whether the existing guest house is 1575 or 1310, to just simply put a cap on the guest house not to exceed 1500, which is consistent with our current ordinance. And lastly, I'll state that I believe this application meets all four of our conditions. As we've seen, the extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the property. It does not have a substantial detriment. In fact, it has a benefit of maintaining this overall 6.7 acres, which falls within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. That's my interpretation.
So I have a question about the 6.7. Will that be able to change during later surveys because of the condition? Like if
Because I
if one
made
of
it to
the
6.7?
right, like if one of the flag lots needed to be a little bit bigger or something needed to change, would they be able to?
Well, you've also made it contingent on that survey anyway. So
Yeah, the overall
if-
motion was
if they run into that
based on
issue,
this.
there would be a couple of things that, I mean, they could come in and get condition changes, but there would be more than just that problem. The bigger problem is the site plan probably then no further subdivision of tract 1.
So
I just didn't want to pigeonhole them by putting a hard number in there. That was my only discussion.
Well, let me ask you this, Paul. If we,
Go ahead, you can ask the city attorney, because this is an important legal question, but we're technically not supposed to be engaging with.
I can't ask him this
You
question.
can't,
yet.
no, it's
No,
an
sorry.
important legal question. So if it's pertaining to legal.
It
yes.
is for, yeah, it's a legal question. If this variance is granted, does this go with the land or the owner?
The land.
I guess if the 1,500 square feet is not met, and I guess there's some question on that, then this whole variance dies, right? Which means everything in there, I mean, it goes away, doesn't it? I mean, I guess I can't ask staff the question.
That's a legal question.
What happens if, we made a contingent on 1,500 square feet, it's an existing building, when that gets checked by whoever checks it, it doesn't meet the 1,500 square feet, what happens to this variance?
The variance exists. They would not be able to create it if they would have the option of either reducing the heated square footage to satisfy the 1,500 requirement, whether they open up a portion of that front building, or they would not be able to put in the new house to make it a guest house. I mean, that they would be stuck with those two options, but the variance would still exist. They could also come back for change in conditions or another variance if it was found to be an issue. There's a bunch of different ways it could be worked out. But
So
the variance would still exist. They would just have to comply with it.
So conditions on a variance don't go as a group.
They,
In other words, you can meet one condition and not meet another
no,
condition.
they have to meet the condition. There are different ways that they could meet it. They could meet it by reducing the heated square footage of the front house, or they could just not build the new house and continue to occupy that house, or they could get changes to the conditions in the future,
Or
or
come back for another variance.
or come back for another variance. Yeah.
I guess that was my second follow-up question then. If based on your motion that we're talking about how this is set up with 6.7, can whoever the ownership is come back and ask for another variance on this plat?
Yes.
Or could you condition it not to? No.
Can't
That's
prevent
what I
them
figured.
from ever asking
Can't
for
do
another
that.
variance. No.
Right. But if, okay, that makes sense.
The only thing that would last into perpetuity would be the TDR.
That, because that typically, that involves the imposition of a restrictive covenant that prevents development of the property.
Right, okay, that makes sense.
And I know the 1,500 is a set number for a guest house. So if they wanted to enclose the porch and make it heated or cooled, that wouldn't fly, right? If they
If it
wanted
exceeded
to,
Not
the
if they-
1,500, they couldn't do that.
Yeah, by the current code, it's 1,500 is a
Yeah,
guest
that's-
house.
that's the
It's gotta be,
Milton Code or ordinance.
unless the code changes, but it's 1,500.
Yep.
My
Well, what if they never
discussion on,
I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking it's great, but what if they never built the other house, then this is really a primary house, not a guest house, and I don't know what happens then. Because now you got,
But
what
it
regulations
doesn't
apply
matter.
to this guest house that's really not a guest house anymore?
The variance doesn't apply to this house specifically if they never build another house. It allows them to build a house behind it and turn this into, or consider it a guest house in order to allow them to build that new house in the back. So
But it still would
you
remain-
don't have to use a variance. The variance is there to allow you to do something at some point in time.
It gives them the right to convert it at some point to a guest house.
But it doesn't bind them to do
They're
that.
not bound to do it.
So then the fact that we're calling it a guest house here doesn't really matter if they never build the other house. That can be,
It's not a guest house until there's a primary house that supersedes it behind it.
that's what's had me trolled all along, but anyway.
I'm sorry. So Todd, is your motion, this is specific to this plat?
There,
and
Exhibit
this
A and B.
Existing structure?
Yeah, yes. Yes.
All right. Yeah, I mean, my comments on this, ultimately are, land preservation in rural Milton, to me, means not doing flag lots and subdividing lots like this. I understand the 5 feet. I understand that was built a long time ago. Again, people tear down houses in the 50s all the time, from the 50s all the time, and then rebuild new ones. It happens all the time here in Milton. All these farmhouses that are getting torn down and rebuilt. So I don't know that that's a big deal, but, I understand the goal. I understand what she's talking about. Does that change in a couple years? Does it change in 5 years? I don't know. But what we're looking at is at least preserving as much as we can at this point in time.
Okay,
I
there's
don't know
no
what anybody
further
else thinks.
discussion. The motion for V22-10, Part 1, is to approve without conditions. That's the reduction of the side yard setback adjacent to the street from 40 feet to 33.5 feet for an existing single-family home. Part 2, to allow existing single-family home to remain in the front of a proposed single-family home for a guest house use. Also recommending approval with the 4 conditions as stated earlier. All those in favor of approving Part 1 and Part 2, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 3-2. Do you have the nays?
Is it 4-2?
3-2,
4-2.
4-2, yeah.
4-2, my bad.
You're right.
I had to look, how many are there?
Thank you for your preparation on this. This was quite a lot of alphabet soup in terms of but very important topics in consideration of what you're trying to do and how it impacts Milton in the long run. You have a lot of work in front of you to keep in touch with staff as you evolve this project. I'm certain you will. The next item on our agenda is consideration of appeals and secondary variances.
None?
None. Old business.
None.
There was something regarding email passwords. That's already been distributed for our new emails?
Yeah, I would like to encourage you guys to go ahead and sign in into your new emails, using new passwords, and please use the new emails, not your personal emails.
Yes,
That's preferred.
Yeah, I would actually, and Paul would appreciate that I did this, right? Emphasize, get your city email set up because you are subject to open records request on your personal email if you use your personal email. All right? And on that note, all of the material from tonight, please leave behind for open records request.
On the old business, we did have an old business, but we kind of took care of it in a way. We asked the last time that staff and the city attorney consider that statement about drain, what do you call them? Flow drains.
Flow wells.
Flow wells. And you came back with a statement as a condition. I thought we were going to sort of kick that around and say, do we all agree that this should be the new statement of that condition? It wasn't a condition, it's a possible condition.
Recommended condition.
If you all agree and there's no place, we don't have to vote on it, but is that acceptable to everybody, the way it's written? And that from now on, we don't have to use it, but as you said, Todd, we're not experts. And the reason I brought it up last time was I said, we're not experts and we need something to be put in there that just lets us, put the right words in. So if that covers us, I'm okay. It was old business though.
I liked it.
Like some potential.
Just like I like
Potential
referring to the
recommendations.
city arborist for arborist things because
Right.
we're not really the experts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Storm drain, that came up last meeting?
I brought it up and we were going to address it as old business.
Gotcha.
And okay, so that's taken care of.
Well, that was a good catch or a good call out. Item number 9, new business.
None as well.
None.
Yeah.
Item number 10,
Make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Jackson is making a motion to adjourn. I'll second that motion. Is there any discussion?
No discussion.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. We are adjourned. Please leave your materials behind for open record.